The urgent shouts were the last thing I remembered clearly before the world dissolved into a smear of running lights and shadows. Hurry, catch her. Don't let her escape. My legs, which felt like they belonged to someone else, stumbled forward in a desperate, clumsy attempt to flee, but I was slow, so terribly slow. An arm snaked around me, and then a cloth pressed hard against my mouth and nose. The chemical scent was overpowering, acrid and sweet at the same time, flooding my senses before everything went dark. I was vaguely aware of being moved, of hushed, leering voices that seemed to come from a great distance. A few minutes later, I felt the soft give of a mattress beneath me as several people carried me into what felt like a large, opulent room. Boss, that old man really got a bargain. Such a beautiful young lady. I haven't even had a taste yet. A rough voice chuckled somewhere nearby. The words were slimy, crawling over my skin and making me feel ill, even in my semi-conscious state. If you want to die, don't drag me into it. Another voice snapped back, sharper and more cautious. Besides, this woman deserves it. Who told her to stand in the way of the madam and the young miss? The conversation buzzed around my ears like a swarm of angry hornets before the definitive slam of a door cut it short, plunging the room into silence. The silence, however, was worse. It left me alone with the fire coursing through my veins. I was hot, unbearably hot. I bit down hard on my lip, trying to anchor myself to the sharp sting of pain to fight my way back to consciousness, but the drug was a powerful, insidious thing. My entire body felt weak and limp, a dead weight I couldn't command. A humiliating wave of heat pooled low in my stomach, and I began to feel sensations in places that made shame burn even hotter than the drug itself. Just as I thought I would lose myself completely to the drug-induced haze, the door to the room seemed to open again. This time, the footsteps were heavy, deliberate, approaching the bed with an erratic rhythm that betrayed some deep inner turmoil. A man was panting heavily, his breaths coming in ragged gasps. I couldn't see his face clearly, but his eyes were bloodshot, and a chilling aura radiated from his entire body. So intense, it sent a shiver of fear through me that momentarily cut through the heat. Someone had dared to drug him. The thought was not mine, but I could feel the violent anger emanating from him. Suddenly, his gaze froze on me. I lay on the bed, my body feeling exposed and vulnerable, somehow covered in a scattering of rose petals. My skin was flushed a deep, feverish pink against my pale face. The fiery red dress I'd been wearing was still on, its fabric outlining curves I suddenly felt hyper-aware of. My eyes, heavy-lidded and unfocused, felt veiled in a misty haze. The man's defenses, whatever they were, seemed to crumble in that instant. I couldn't recall his face clearly later, only that he was beautiful in a fierce, dangerous way. By the bedside, a man's suit jacket and my own fiery red dress lay in a scattered heap. The night was a blur of cool air and tender, desperate touches, the room filled with a lingering, charged charm as the hours stretched on. When I woke up, the hotel room was empty. The morning light streamed through a gap in the curtains, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. The only evidence of the man from the night before was a thoughtfully placed contraceptive pill and a substantial check resting on the bedside table. As soon as I tried to get out of bed, my legs gave way, feeling as weak as overcooked noodles. My body was a roadmap of suggestive red marks, a trail of them leading down from my collarbone. I let out a cold, humorless snort, my hand gripping the check so tightly the paper crinkled. With a trembling hand, I swallowed the pill with a glass of warm water. Down below the hotel, inside a luxury car, a secretary glanced nervously at the man in the back seat. President Hayes, the woman has taken the contraceptive pill. The secretary hesitated, unsure how to proceed. The man in the seat, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, showed no trace of the raw desperation from the night before. He lifted his gaze, his eyes as cold and sharp as chips of ice. What is it? The secretary immediately lowered her head and held out the torn pieces of the check. That young lady, she didn't seem to accept the check. The atmosphere in the car seemed to freeze instantly. Throw it away, Liam Hayes said, his voice flat. Don't bother with this woman anymore. He sneered inwardly, assuming this was just another woman's tired trick. He'd seen plenty of them. Also, he added, his voice dropping to a dangerous low, Have you found out who drugged me yesterday? Recalling the events of the previous night, a bone-chilling coldness flickered in his eyes. The secretary trembled. We found out early this morning. It was done by someone from the second branch of the Hayes family. A cold, cruel smile played at the corners of Liam's lips. A bastard child with delusions of grandeur, daring to covet the Hayes family's fortune. He was asking for death. Half a month later, my world fell apart. News broke that the eldest daughter of the Yun family, Mi, had a questionable identity and a chaotic private life. The real Yun family heiress, it was claimed, had been mistakenly left behind in the countryside years ago. As soon as the story hit the city's elite circles, the entire imperial capital was buzzing. The Jiang family, to whom I had been engaged, hastily canceled our engagement and switched their allegiance to the so-called true heiress, my stepsister, Lana Yun. At the same time, to compensate Lana, the Yun family arranged for me to be sent abroad overnight. On the way to the airport, the car was silent. Apart from Mrs. Jensen, our longtime housekeeper, and a driver, no one from the Yun family came to see me off. Miss, Mrs. Jensen whispered, her eyes red-rimmed with unshed tears. This is something your mother left for you. I have been keeping it safe all these years. While the driver was outside having a smoke, she discreetly slipped a bank card into my hand. Take it, and make sure that mother-daughter pair doesn't snatch it away from you. Mrs. Jensen, don't worry about me, I said, my voice steadier than I felt, my gaze resolute. I'll be back. Take good care of yourself abroad, miss, she said, waving her hand as she turned to leave. At that exact moment, a truck suddenly roared out of a side street, heading straight for her. Mrs. Jensen! My heart-wrenching cry echoed on the empty road, but it was too late. 5 years later, a black Bentley pulled up in front of MC Entertainment in the imperial capital. I stepped out, a woman in an emerald green dress and dark sunglasses. My black hair and red lips were a stark contrast to my fair skin, and the cut of my dress revealed just a hint of my collarbone, exuding an alluring charm. In the blink of an eye, 2 little boys appeared behind me, hand in hand. They followed me quietly. One, Max, wore a serious expression, dressed in a miniature suit. His high-bridged nose and well-defined features already hinted at the handsome man he would grow up to be. The other, Leo, was wearing overalls, his chubby little face like a soft, doughy steamed bun. He was holding an Ultraman action figure, his little belly round and plump. Each had his own adorable charm, and even when facing the flashing cameras of the reporters gathered at the entrance, they showed not a trace of timidity. After 5 years, I, Clara Yun, had finally returned. Over 1,000 days and nights abroad, I had never forgotten the scene of Mrs. Jensen's car accident happening right before my eyes. Wow, so beautiful. And her sons are so handsome, too. I heard someone whisper. Who is this? I don't know either. Never seen her at the company before. Maybe a newly signed artist. You still don't know? She's a shareholder of MC Entertainment. I walked toward the CEO's private elevator with my 2 little buns following quickly behind me. Mommy, let me help you press, Leo said, puffing out his round belly. He stood on his tiptoes and stretched out his plump fingers to press the button. Thank you, Leo. Mommy is very happy, I said, a wave of tenderness washing over me. The 2 boys were very handsome and resembled me, but in the arch of their brows and the shape of their eyes, I could see traces of that man from 5 years ago. Growing up without a father, my children were very sensible and never asked about him, but my heart still ached as if pricked by needles whenever I thought about it. I never expected to get pregnant after taking that birth control pill. I had originally gone to the hospital for an abortion, but the doctor told me that due to my very thin uterine lining, this might be my only chance to become a mother. Touching my slightly swollen belly, I ultimately hesitated. 5 years ago, in the middle of the night, I drove alone to a hospital in New York and gave birth to my twins. Recalling that unfamiliar man from that night, my initial resentment had slowly faded into a cool indifference. After all, the man was somewhat useful, at least he wasn't ugly. Auntie Chloe, you're here! The child's voice snapped me out of my thoughts. Chloe, what brings you here? I asked, looking at the woman who had just entered my office. She wore sunglasses, a Barbie pink tank top, and had a figure and personality that were equally fiery. I just wanted to check if you've been bullied by that Susan and her daughter. Chloe Guan gritted her teeth. That country bumpkin, Lana Yun, has been thriving these past 5 years. I heard she's getting married to Julian Jiang this year. So what does that have to do with me? I said indifferently, leafing through the itinerary my secretary had sent over. Spoken like someone with backbone. I thought you still couldn't forget Julian Jiang. Chloe curled her lips. To be honest, I've long disliked that guy. He and Lana Yun are birds of a feather. Hypocritical and obsessed with saving face, just like my freeloading cousin. Watching Chloe's irritated expression, I couldn't help but laugh. All right, if Wendy has managed to win over Old Lady Guan's favor, she must have some skills and cunning. You'd better be careful. I just can't stand her fake, pretentious behavior. She always tattles on me to Grandma. Chloe gritted her teeth in anger. By the way, is your schedule packed recently? I flipped through the itinerary. What's up? Chloe played with Leo while saying, Max, you should smile for Auntie too. Don't always keep that cold face. Max, with great effort, forced out a fake smile that was more of a grimace. Accompany me to the Yun family's banquet tomorrow. My fingertips brushed over the embossed invitation on my desk. I had to attend the Yun family's banquet. All right, tomorrow I'll make sure to teach that country bumpkin Lana a lesson. Chloe and Lana had never gotten along. Since both were in the entertainment industry with similar statuses, competing for leading roles was a common occurrence. But Lana, with her delicate and gentle appearance, was adept at playing the innocent victim and would secretly incite her fans to attack Chloe online. Once, she even caused Chloe to be trending on social media due to the backlash. By the way, are these two little ones going to the Yun family's banquet? Chloe asked with concern, afraid the children might be bullied by Lana and her mother. I sneered. Of course they're going. I'll make sure the Yun family publicly acknowledges Leo and Max in front of everyone. Chloe knew I had always been full of ideas, a world away from the lonely girl from 5 years ago who was so easily manipulated by her stepmother. All right, if they dare to bully you, just wait and see how I deal with them, Chloe said with a laugh, her Barbie pink hair flaunting as she strutted out of the top floor office. In the CEO's office on the top floor of the Tianhui Group, Liam Hayes' secretary carefully placed a returned contract on the desk. President Hayes, Miss Guan might not be able to sign the contract with the company. She withdrew it at the last minute. Why? The man at the desk asked, his features sharp and chiseled, unconsciously evoking the image of snow on an iceberg. His posture was upright, and the tailored suit accentuated the contours of his well-defined muscles. Normally, such matters would be handled by the PR department, but Chloe Guan's brother was a close friend of his and had asked him to look after his younger sister. Now that the contract hadn't been signed, he naturally had to give an explanation. The secretary glanced at the untouched contract and swallowed nervously. I heard Miss Guan's agent is returning to the country, and Miss Guan will personally receive her. As soon as the words were spoken, a light chuckle from the man could be heard. Well, she certainly should receive her personally. Given Chloe's fiery temperament, it was a miracle she had survived in the entertainment industry. He was surprised that after changing agents 5 years ago, her reputation had taken a sharp turn for the better, winning over many fans with her straightforward personality. He had looked into this agent and only knew her surname was Yun. That agent's surname is Yun? Liam casually picked up the contract. He liked making friends with smart people, and this agent indeed had some skills. President Hayes, here's the photo of that agent we just found today, the secretary said, thinking herself clever, and quickly handed over the photos taken just that morning. Liam should have been angry, but his hand instinctively reached out to take them. The photo showed a slender and graceful woman in a form-fitting emerald green gown with black hair, red lips, and fair skin that was utterly captivating. Yet her beautiful almond-shaped eyes betrayed a hint of indifference. In short, utterly enchanting. With a shift of his gaze, two identical little boys suddenly appeared in the photo. One was clinging to an Ultraman figure like a baby who hadn't been weaned, while the other wore an icy expression as if he were owed a great deal of money. Liam silently complained in his heart. Neither was as cute as he had been as a child. Since the Guan family's young lady isn't interested, forget it. Let's inform President Guan. Liam casually placed the photo in a drawer and immersed himself in his work. Yes, President Hayes, this is the invitation from the Yun family. Madam said you must attend. The secretary trembled as he placed the invitation on the desk, then quickly fled after completing the task assigned by Liam's mother. Liam, cold as ice, casually tossed the invitation into the trash bin. What a joke. He looked down on the Yun family's sycophantic ways. Moreover, attending such a banquet would attract a swarm of social butterflies, which would be troublesome to deal with. The phone rang. It was his mother. Liam, you must attend the Yun family's banquet tomorrow. I heard many socialites from the capital will be there. If you don't bring a wife home, don't even think about returning to the Hayes family, Annabelle Hayes declared from the sofa while her husband Lawrence Hayes fed her orange slices. Darling, don't worry about that brat. If he can't find a wife, let him sleep on the streets. Lawrence mercilessly threw his own son under the bus. Son, look at these oranges. They all grow in segments. At your age, how come you still don't have a partner by your side? Dad, Mom, Liam sighed helplessly. Beep, beep, beep. Liam stared at the disconnected call, feeling utterly exasperated. The Yun family's banquet was a gathering of celebrities and elites, with nearly all the prominent figures from the imperial capital in attendance. Just as Lana Yun was about to make her entrance on Julian Jiang's arm, the crowd at the entrance suddenly stirred. What's going on? What happened at the door? Lana pouted, visibly displeased. Susan Chin frowned and ordered, Go see who's being so blind and make her quiet down. All right, my little princess. Don't be angry. It must be some minor celebrity trying to steal the spotlight, the handsome man beside her said, pinching Lana's cheek. Lana blushed coyly. Julian, once we're married, you can't look at those minor celebrities anymore. Fine, fine, Julian replied with a smug, triumphant smile. Thanks to the marriage alliance between the Yun and Jiang families, his family's business had been thriving, and he was happy to show some respect to the young lady of the Yun family. At that moment, a servant leaned close to Lana's ear and whispered a few words. Well, how dare this Clara Yun have the audacity to return to the country? Lana said, very displeased. Julian paused, a fleeting thought passing through his eyes, and asked nonchalantly, Why has she returned? I heard she was pregnant back then. Tsk. She was pregnant and even gave birth to that bastard child. 2 of them at once, Lana scoffed. Lana, today is your engagement day with Julian. Susan Chin frowned. We can't let one bad apple spoil the whole bunch. Someone get her out of here. Lana's eyes gleamed with a sudden thought. Wait, let her in. Standing at a distance, I watched Susan and her daughter whispering to each other, knowing full well they were up to no good. Sure enough, Lana approached me. Oh, isn't this my sister? What brings you back to the country so suddenly? She said, covering her mouth, her eyes feigning just the right amount of surprise, while deliberately raising her voice a notch. Instantly, all eyes at the banquet turned toward me, though the gazes held only astonishment and admiration. No way! Is this the eldest daughter of the Yun family? How does she look even more like a noble heiress than Lana Yun? So beautiful. How could the Jiang family's young master have fallen for Lana? I thought after what happened back then, she'd be too ashamed to return to the Yun family. Who knew she'd make such a powerful comeback? The crowd instinctively parted as I, dressed in a black Chanel haute couture gown and wearing a delicate crown, walked gracefully forward. My slender figure resembled that of a proud black swan. A slender neck adorned with a Tiffany high-end custom jewelry piece, its pearls delicate and perfectly rounded, accentuated my noble and mysterious aura. That damn Clara Yun, Lana screamed inwardly. I let out a light laugh. Lana, you're just the same as before. Still resorting to the same rotten tricks from 5 years ago? Auntie Susan probably used the same sleazy methods to become the Yun family's madam back then, didn't she? As these words were spoken, the surrounding gossipy gazes instantly fell upon the 2 of them, especially Lana. Lana didn't expect me to suddenly bring up the events of that year and was momentarily caught off guard. In her mind, I had left the country in disgrace 5 years ago and would naturally feel too ashamed to mention such a scandal. 5 years ago, wasn't that when the eldest daughter of the Yun family had that incident? A guest murmured. There must be something fishy going on. Who would give up being a proper young lady to sleep with some random man? Besides, don't forget how Susan Chin got her position. The murmurs of gossip from the crowd made Lana flush with anger. Her eyes darted around, and suddenly she seemed to have an idea. Sister, I heard you have two adorable nephews. Why not bring them out to meet everyone? Or are you too embarrassed? Lana said with malice. Back then, she had deliberately found an exceptionally ugly man for me, rumored to have a tumor on his face, a hunchback standing less than 1.6 meters tall and completely bald. The child I gave birth to must be as ugly as a rat, she thought. At that moment, two childish voices suddenly rang out. Bad woman, you're not allowed to bully my mommy. Two little kids popped out of nowhere and thump, 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 charged at Lana like tiny cannonballs. Lana instinctively stepped back, but her 10-centimeter high heels caught on the hem of her dress. Ah! She screamed, knocking over a 2-meter-high wine table. Red wine splashed all over her, leaving her face streaked with red and white. Max, Leo, what are you doing here? I asked, quickly shielding the two children behind me. I had clearly told them to wait in the car. Leo stretched out his chubby little finger and pointed behind him. It was Uncle Iceberg who brought us here. Everyone followed the chubby toddler's gaze and was instantly stunned. It was Liam Hayes. Mr. Hayes, you're here. Liam's eyebrow twitched. Uncle Iceberg. This form of address struck him as rather novel. No one had ever dared to call him that before. However, the two children were quite adorable, so he decided not to make an issue of it. When Julian Jiang saw that the visitor was Liam Hayes, his eyes instantly lit up as he straightened his posture and stepped forward. President Hayes, the Jiang family didn't host you well today. These two children, who knows where they came from? Didn't the little chubby kids say it already? I brought them here. Liam raised an eyebrow, looking at the seemingly refined and distinguished man before him. Julian didn't expect Liam to be so dismissive of him, feeling displeased for a moment, but he still maintained a smile on his face. President Hayes must be joking. It must be these two children being mischievous. You're magnanimous, which is why you don't bother with such trivial matters. When saying this, Julian deliberately glanced at me as I shielded the two children in front of me. He wanted to shift the blame onto me. I unceremoniously rolled my eyes at him. Was I blind back then to have fallen for such a loser? Little did I know that this very action was caught by Liam's watchful eyes. A faint smile that even he wasn't aware of surfaced at the corner of his lips. This woman before him was quite interesting. Naturally, I can't compare to President Jiang's magnanimity, Liam said, his expression lazy, his handsome face wearing obvious mockery. After all, Jiang Group's shares have already dropped by 10 percentage points. I wouldn't have thought young Master Jiang would still be in the mood to attend a banquet. Someone laughed, though no one knew who. Everyone understood the implication behind his words. It was a veiled mockery of Julian. The Jiang family had been in decline these past few years. Otherwise, they wouldn't have needed to arrange a marriage alliance with the Yun family. Julian clenched his teeth tightly, his resentful gaze fixed on me. He didn't dare provoke Liam Hayes, but wasn't I just that useless orphan girl, someone he could easily trample on? And these two bastards? Julian's hostile gaze fell upon my children. Although he was the one who had personally sent his fiancée to another man's bed years ago, he had indeed been attracted by my appearance back then. Moreover, since I had once been engaged to him, it inevitably stirred some inexplicable sense of possessiveness in him. I noticed his hostility and immediately shielded my children, my eyes revealing a mix of determination and disgust. Liam, standing to the side, observed my reaction, and something within him began to stir. Lana and Susan exchanged glances, instantly reaching a decision. Clara, look at you, bringing two children along without telling me, Susan said, completely changing her previous attitude and warmly taking my hand, presenting a scene of apparent maternal affection. Had I known earlier, I would have had the housekeeper arrange rooms for you. No need, I said, my face revealing a mocking expression. Isn't this exactly what you wanted to see? Why put on this hypocritical act now? I was no longer the silly little girl from 5 years ago. Want to play the happy family scene? That depended on whether I was willing. Susan, I would settle every single debt from back then. Clara! Susan's expression shattered as she watched me walk away. The remaining guests had their fill of gossip, completely forgetting that today was supposed to be the engagement banquet between the Yun and Jiang families. Susan was someone who cared deeply about Face and felt utterly humiliated, so she took Lana and retreated to the Yun family home. Later, I found Liam to thank him for his help. "Mr. Hayes, thank you for today." Liam looked at me, and for some reason, he suddenly didn't want to leave so soon. He knew he should have politely and distantly nodded before departing, but instead he heard himself say, "How should Miss Yun express her gratitude?" The secretary standing nearby was so shocked to hear their CEO actually take the initiative to invite a woman to dinner that her jaw nearly dropped. It was widely known throughout the capital that CEO Hayes showed no interest in women. He was a complete workaholic who had never been on a date. I froze in surprise, my foot that had just stepped toward my car abruptly stopping mid-motion. "What's the matter? Is Miss Yoon all talk and no action?" Liam's lips curled into a smile. I gritted my teeth. "Then shall I treat President Hayes to a meal?" I smiled on the surface but grumbled inwardly. Did he really have to be so insistent on this meal? "Miss Yun, after you." Liam watched as I reluctantly got into his car, feeling quite pleased with himself as he gallantly opened the door for me. Although the car's interior was spacious, it couldn't quite accommodate my two little troublemakers tagging along. The driver sat in the front, leaving just enough room for the four of us in the back. Leo looked up at me, then at Liam. "Mommy, can I have Uncle Iceberg be my daddy?" Ah, I didn't expect my own son to backstab me like this, making an already awkward situation even more uncomfortable. I patted Leo's head. "No, sweetheart. Uncle already has a girlfriend, and he'll have his own children someday." I had just made up an excuse on the spot. After all, Liam Hayes wasn't getting any younger, so having a girlfriend would be perfectly normal. Leo's chubby little face drooped as he looked pitifully at his older brother. "Brother, Mommy doesn't agree to let Iceberg Uncle be our daddy. Let's find someone else to be our daddy." Max didn't expect his younger brother to betray him so quickly. He lowered his head, his face turning red. Although he also really wanted to have a father, he reasoned that Mommy was right. Iceberg Uncle already had a girlfriend. They couldn't let him be their daddy anymore. "I don't." A deep voice suddenly broke the silence in the car. Liam Hayes met my surprised gaze, inexplicably feeling the need to explain. "I don't have a girlfriend, nor do I have any children." The latter half of the sentence was directed at the children sitting between us. As for the first half, I uncomfortably glanced out the window, only to see the man's figure reflected on the glass. I could feel his gaze lingering on me. The driver in the front had raised the partition at some point, leaving the space to just us. I don't know how long it had been, but the car finally stopped. I looked at the amusement park before us, somewhat puzzled. "President Hayes, didn't you say we were going for a meal?" I just wanted to get this meal over with as soon as possible and then part ways with this man, never to see him again. "Yeah, but since the kids are here, we might as well let them have their fun," Liam said, looking down at the two little ones standing by his legs. "Uncle, are you really taking us to the amusement park?" Leo jumped with joy, his round little belly wobbling. Even the usually composed Max couldn't hide the eagerness in his eyes, shyly holding his younger brother's hand as he looked at me. "The children just returned from abroad. They deserve some proper relaxation," Liam said, gently patting both kids' heads. "But it's almost dark now, and we won't be able to play for long." I hesitated slightly. The secretary glanced at his CEO and immediately understood. "Don't worry, Miss Yun. President Hayes has already reserved the entire amusement park and instructed the staff to turn on the nightlights while ensuring both young master's safety." Even the secretary had changed his address to young master. "Mommy, please," Leo begged, blinking his big doll-like eyes, pouting his little mouth, and clinging to my arm while acting cute. "I promise I'll be good." "What about you, Max? Do you want to play too?" Liam crouched down and looked at the quiet boy. For some reason, ever since the first time he laid eyes on Max, he felt an inexplicable connection with this child. His precocious nature reminded him of his own childhood memories. "I do," Max replied shyly, his face turning red. Liam patted his head and stood up, holding the hands of the two little ones. "All right, let's go together." "Mommy, bumper cars! I want to play!" Leo pointed at the colorful bumper cars, his eyes sparkling. A staff member approached. Little one, who will sit with mommy and who with daddy? I want to sit with mommy. Leo extended his chubby little finger, leading me toward the arena, leaving me utterly bewildered. Mom and dad? Hey, hey, hey. That ice-cold face is definitely not the child's father. I wanted to turn around and explain, but seeing the man's completely unfazed expression, I wondered if I was making a big deal out of nothing. Max carefully held the man's broad hand, his eyes sparkling the moment his small hand touched the man's large one. Daddy's hand feels like this, he thought. It's completely different from mommy's. Liam held Max's hand and led him to the bumper cars. What are you thinking about? Pick a car. Max pursed his lips, slightly embarrassed. I was thinking Uncle's hand is completely different from Mommy's. Mommy's hand is soft, while Uncle's hand is very big, but it's still warm. Liam instinctively looked at me, his hands feeling weak. The bell rang. The children shouted cheerfully. Brother, let's see who's the strongest. Leo excitedly waved his chubby little hands. The two little ones were clearly pitted against each other, determined to settle the score. I momentarily forgot about keeping my distance from the man before me and joined in the game. I hadn't heard my child's joyful cheers in such a long time. At this moment, I didn't want to think about anything else. I just wanted to cherish this heartwarming memory. Leo, quick, turn left. My face flushed pink, and my smile made me look even more radiant and charming. Liam also joined the game because of the lively atmosphere, ultimately leading Max to victory. Brother, you won! Leo felt a bit discouraged, but still had a lot of fun. It's okay. Leo is also amazing, Max said, holding his younger brother's hand to comfort him. I watched the scene before me, then glanced at the man standing beside me. Thinking about how happy my children were today because of him, I couldn't help but feel emotional. Where is the children's father? Suddenly, a man's steady voice came from beside me. I was taken aback. I don't know. I was telling the truth. Back then, I had been drugged and remembered nothing except for the man's narrow, captivating eyes. I had considered checking the surveillance footage, but Susan and Lana had already tampered with the video, leaving no trace to follow. Sometimes I wondered if it was fate's will, preventing me from discovering the identity of my child's biological father. Sorry, I shouldn't have brought this up, Liam said, naturally assuming the man was irresponsible and had abandoned me. At this thought, Liam inwardly scorned the man who had slept with me and then disappeared. It's fine. It's all in the past now, and the children have grown so big. All I hope for now is that they can grow up safe and sound, I said with feigned lightness. The journey had been full of stumbles. From giving birth alone abroad and being penniless, to gradually raising my children while finding a job that could support us, none of it had been easy. Perhaps only another mother could truly understand the hardships of being a single parent. 2 hours later, we were leaving the park. Mommy, Daddy, I'm so happy today. Leo was holding a bunch of plush toys in his arms, all of them won for him by Liam. I had no idea the man before me was so skilled at carnival games. This time, both Liam and I tacitly chose not to correct Leo's mistake. Before leaving, Max quickly hugged Liam with flushed cheeks. He looked up at the tall man before him. Thank you for being my daddy today. Liam smiled and said, You can come to me if you need anything in the future. Here's my contact number. I initially thought the man was just being polite, but to my surprise, he crouched down and entered his number into Max's smartwatch. All right, kid, call me if you need anything. Max looked up, his narrow eyes sparkling as he gazed at the tall man before him. He responded with great determination. His little head was already thinking, next time, I'll do my best to make him my dad. Liam lowered his head and looked into the little boy's eyes, only then realizing how similar Max's eyes were to his own. Uncle, bye-bye! Leo ran up to Liam with quick steps, stretched out his arms, and tightly hugged his leg. Bye, next time Uncle will take you out to play again, Liam said, gently patting the two little ones' heads. Next time? Who said there would be a next time with him? The black Maybach sped along the highway and came to a stop in a villa district half an hour later. Goodbye, Miss Yoon. Goodbye, Mr. Hayes. I held each child's hand as we walked toward home. Mommy, when can we play with Uncle Liam next time? Leo bounced along, his chubby cheeks jiggling with each hop. I looked down at Max and noticed he was also gazing at me with hopeful eyes. I had no idea what kind of spell Liam Hayes had cast on them. Mommy isn't sure when, but we'll definitely have to wait until Uncle Liam isn't busy, I said, pinching my son's chubby little cheek. Nice and squishy. Then Mommy, Leo, and brother don't want birthday presents. We just want Uncle to play with us once. Okay? Leo looked up at me with hopeful eyes. Facing their hopeful gazes, I felt for the first time the importance of the role of a father, but I shook my head, dismissing the fleeting, impractical thought. Okay, Mommy promises. At least for this moment, I couldn't refuse. Mommy, pinky promise. Hook your finger and swear, no changing for 100 years. The two children were overjoyed. After finishing their bedtime story, I felt a wave of tenderness in my heart as I looked at the two little ones in bed. Leo lay sprawled out, his round little belly rising and falling with each breath. He was wearing Ultraman pajamas, his chubby cheeks rosy, and he hugged the doll that Liam had won for him tightly in his arms. Max was much more well-behaved, wearing dinosaur pajamas with a little tail at the back. His thick eyebrows and standard stunning eyes made it clear that their father was a handsome man. Good night, sweethearts. I kissed my two precious children on their foreheads before leaving their room. The next day, at the MC Entertainment Company in the 33RD floor shareholder office, Chloe leaned her hands on my desk. Hurry up, spit it out. Do you have any connection with Liam Hayes? I don't know him. Yesterday was the first time we met, I said, keeping my eyes on the report in my hands. Really? Chloe's face might as well have had the words, I don't believe you, written all over it. Really, truer than gold, I said, closing the report. By the way, I've read the script for Red Beans in the Republic of China. The supporting female role suits you well. Are you interested? Will Lana Yun go? If she goes, then I'll go. She and Lana had both wanted the same role before. The director had already decided on her, but Lana, seeing that Chloe had just signed the contract, started scheming. She secretly incited her fans to flood the internet with claims that Lana was more suitable for the role, questioning why the director would choose Chloe over someone who fit the character better. In the end, the director succumbed to the online pressure and replaced her. From that moment on, the feud between them was set. I took a look at the interview list this time, and Lana's name is on it. But don't worry, prepare well and do your best to secure it. This script is really good, I advised. Don't worry, I don't need you to tell me to prepare well. Don't think she's the only one with fans. Chloe, with her fiery personality, was determined to give it her all. Moreover, because of her straightforward and honest nature, she indeed had a group of loyal fans, and she cherished them, almost always active on social media every day. With a click, she uploaded a beautiful selfie, then took another photo of the thick stack of scripts. Gotta work hard and do my best today. In no time, there were hundreds of comments below. Good. You're handling your own promotions now, so I won't interfere, but remember, if you clash with Lana, don't engage directly. Leave it to the PR team. Chloe made an understanding gesture and couldn't help but sigh as she looked at me. Clara, you're much prettier than Lana. If you entered the entertainment industry, what chance would she have? I chuckled and shook my head. That had once been my dream. But now that my mother had passed away, it no longer held any meaning. At the central tower of the imperial capital, in the CEO's office of the Tianhui Group, the secretary carefully placed a stack of photos on Liam's desk. President Hayes, photos of you and Miss Yun from last night were taken. I've already arranged for them to be handled urgently. Liam Hayes frowned as he flipped through the photos, his narrow eyes glinting with a cold light. The person who took the photos was skilled at finding angles. Every picture showed intimate moments between him and me. Has the person been dealt with? President Hayes, the person has already been handed over to the police, and it's been confirmed that it was a paparazzo who took the photos. According to the plan, it was supposed to be front-page news tomorrow. The secretary silently lit a row of candles in their heart for that paparazzo. Sure enough, the man before them showed no mercy, his thin lips parting slightly. Let him stay a few more days. Sneak photography is illegal to begin with. Tianhui Group had the most professional legal team in the capital, Keeping someone in police custody for a few extra days was no problem. President Hayes, Madam said she wants you to go to the old residence tonight. Liam sighed inwardly, guessing it was probably about urging him to get married, and nodded. I understand. You can leave now. Speak of the devil. Annabelle Hayes heard that her son had been photographed in an intimate photo with a manager and immediately rushed to the company. Madam, are you looking for President Hayes? He is currently in a meeting, the receptionist said respectfully. It's good that he's in a meeting. Tell him to come in when he's done. Annabelle walked openly into her son's office carrying her Hermes bag. Lawrence, let me tell you, the news about the photo is absolutely true. Our son's spring is about to arrive, she gushed to her husband on the phone. She couldn't understand why her son, nearly 30, was still single. Her friends' sons were already becoming fathers, which made her all the more anxious. On the other end of the line, Lawrence Hayes secretly planned to have a heart-to-heart talk with their son once the call ended. If their son couldn't find a wife, it would keep his own wife worried every day. As she spoke, Annabelle's gaze fell on a photo, and she raised an eyebrow. All right, Lawrence, that's it for now. I'm hanging up. She looked at the photo casually tucked among the documents, her eyes filled with shock and sudden understanding. This was the very photo the secretary had handed to Liam, which he had absent-mindedly stuffed into a folder and forgotten about. President Hayes, your mother is waiting for you inside, the secretary at the door respectfully informed him. As soon as Liam entered the door, he saw his mother holding a photo in her hand, and his instincts immediately warned him of trouble. Sure enough, Annabelle looked at him with a gossipy expression. Son, is this your girlfriend? For some reason, Liam couldn't bring himself to meet his mother's gaze. Why are you touching my things? Assistant, put the photo away properly. I didn't mess with your stuff. You're the one who left the photo on the table. If you put it out like that, don't tell me she's not your girlfriend. Annabelle clearly didn't believe him. You blockhead. You finally blossomed. By the way, the day after tomorrow is your grandmother's 70th birthday. She mentioned she'd like to see you bring a female companion. At this, Annabelle sighed. The elderly woman's health wasn't great, and her only wish now was to see her grandson settle down. Your grandmother had a tough life when she was young. You know how your grandfather was, secretly fathering illegitimate children and causing her endless heartache. Liam swallowed the refusal he'd been about to voice. I understand. I'll bring a female companion with me when the time comes. Please reassure Grandma. Annabelle had come this time to see if her son had really found a girlfriend. Now that it turned out to be just a misunderstanding, she left. In the luxurious mansion of the Yun family, Lana had a facial mask on while a maid knelt at her feet painting her toenails. Mom, why has that bitch Clara Yun suddenly returned to the country? Uncle Chin said that woman was hiding in the slums of America, picking through trash. How did you do this? It's hideous. How am I supposed to pass the interview in 3 days? Get out. Furious, Lana kicked the manicurist without hesitation. Don't be angry, sweetheart, Susan said calmly. After all, the Yun family is ours now. We can just find any excuse to let her move in. And in the end, won't she be at our mercy? It turned out that the servants my mother had left behind had long been dismissed by her, and now the entire Yun household only obeyed her commands. Soon, she said, I will teach that little bitch Clara a proper lesson. Mom, you must avenge me. Last time she ruined my engagement banquet with Julian. Don't worry, didn't she sleep with that ugly man back then? We'll just... Susan whispered a few words into Lana's ear. When Clara is disgraced, I'll drive her off to Africa. And those 2 little brats she gave birth to? Doesn't she treasure them? We'll give them away and let her taste the bitterness of being separated from her children. Susan had long planned this. For a mother, nothing is more painful than being torn apart from her children. Young miss, Mr. Jiang is waiting for you outside, a servant said respectfully. Mom, Julian asked me out on a date, so I won't chat with you anymore. Lana was overjoyed and hurried upstairs to change her clothes. Susan followed behind her. Oh dear, hurry up. Don't keep Julian waiting. Lana held up a dress, looking proud and coquettish. Let him wait. If he doesn't wait for me, I won't go. Julian Jiang sat in the living room, watching as half an hour had already passed. His impatience grew, and a hint of coldness flickered in his narrow phoenix eyes. "Mr. Jiang, please have some tea," a servant said, bringing over a cup. In an instant, Julian's expression became as refreshing as a spring breeze, appearing polite and refined. "Thank you." The maid blushed instantly as she gazed at his handsome appearance. In the kitchen, maids whispered, "Wow, I just saw young Master Jiang is truly as gentle as the rumors say." Of course, our young lady spends an hour getting ready every time she goes on a date with him. Only someone as patient as young Master Jiang would be willing to wait. Julian overheard the comments and felt slightly pleased. He turned to glance at the maid who had just spoken, his gaze meeting her bashful eyes. His expression darkened slightly. The maid's pure and innocent appearance was exactly his type. "Brother Julian!" Lana's shy voice came from the stairs, abruptly breaking the ambiguous atmosphere. "Lana, today is our 5-year anniversary. I'm taking you out for French cuisine," Julian said, presenting the flowers he had prepared. "Thank you, Brother Julian." Lana's face flushed with shy delight. At that moment, she felt like the happiest woman in the world. Julian was young, handsome, and successful. Many socialites in the capital admired him, yet he only had eyes for her. In the car, Julian casually asked, "Why did your sister come back to the country this time?" To be honest, ever since he saw me at the engagement banquet, he had been itching inside. My graceful curves and stunning appearance kept flashing through his mind. Strange, 5 years ago, I was still timid and weak. How did I seem like a completely different person now? "Who knows? Anyway, she'll be leaving soon," Lana said while applying makeup in front of the mirror, planning to take some beautiful photos later and post them on social media. Why? How could I possibly let Clara Yun, the daughter of that early deceased woman, compete with me for such a huge inheritance? Lana rolled her eyes. Honestly, this woman was also incredibly stupid. Despite being the eldest daughter of the Yun family, she wasn't even worth one of my mother's toes. A thought flashed swiftly through Julian's mind. Although it's perfectly justified to drive her out of the Yun family, how could I bear to let you do it? Why not leave this matter to me? I'll handle it for you. Once I fell into his hands, wouldn't I be at his mercy? The thought of this scenario filled him with delight. "Brother Julian, you're so good to me. You must teach her a proper lesson when the time comes." Lana clung to him, coquettishly pleading. At the entrance of Tianhui Group, the towering building reached into the clouds, with white-collar workers bustling back and forth. Wendy Wen walked out of the CEO's office with her bag, looking visibly displeased. "Hey, Mom, there's nothing I can do. Liam Hayes is completely unapproachable. He didn't even glance at me when I tried to flirt with him." On the other end of the phone, Mrs. Wen also sounded anxious. "Ting, we've worked so hard to secure a place in the Guan family. If you could become the young madam of the Hayes family, what would the Guan family even matter? Wouldn't Chloe Guan be trampled under your feet?" Wendy curled her lips in disdain. "I've never taken her seriously. Anyway, old Madame Guan doesn't like her at all. Besides, she's just a firecracker. A few provoking words from me and she foolishly falls for it. All right, keep working hard and try to snatch the resources from Chloe." "Got it!" Wendy impatiently hung up the phone when she suddenly noticed 2 little boys standing at the company entrance. "Auntie, do you know how to get to the CEO's office?" Leo hugged his doll and asked in a childish, milky voice. Wendy rolled her eyes irritably. "Get out of the way, brat. Didn't your mother teach you not to cause trouble? Get out of here." In her mind, she was already fantasizing about becoming the young madam of the Hayes family and treating Tianhui Group as her own. Leo was furious, waving his chubby hands. I wasn't causing trouble. I came to find Daddy." "Little brat," Max said coolly. "That's what I should say to you. You were standing at the door making a phone call for 10 minutes, blocking the way." Wendy was taken aback, only then realizing that people passing by her were showing impatient expressions. "What do you know, you little brat? Get out of here. Go, go, go," she snapped in anger. The secretary who arrived on the scene was shocked by what she saw. "My little ancestors, please come this way, young masters." "Uncle, where is Daddy?" Leo asked with sparkling eyes, hugging the doll in his arms. Max, holding his younger brother's hand, said earnestly, "Thank you, Uncle. Sorry to trouble you." "No trouble at all, no trouble at all," the assistant replied. wiping the cold sweat from his forehead. Just now, after the meeting, President Hayes had flown into a huge rage, and no one in the company dared to speak until the two young masters called him. God knows how shocked he was when he saw President Hayes ruthlessly criticizing a director 1 second, only to answer the phone with a gentle expression the next. Beside them, Wendy looked utterly stunned as she watched the assistant leave with the two little boys. She couldn't help but step forward and grab Max's hand. "What's with you kids randomly claiming relatives? Fatherless brats. Do you really think President Hayes is someone you can casually latch onto?" Wendy seemed to have uncovered some scheme of these two children, yanking Max viciously. "Assistant, you must have made a mistake, right? How could Liam Hayes possibly be the father of these two little brats?" The assistant also grew impatient, forcing a smile. "Miss Wen, this is President Hayes's private matter. You have no right to inquire about it." "You—" Wendy flushed red with anger, clenching her fists tightly. "Once she becomes the young madam, she'll make sure these snobbish underlings pay for their insolence." "Auntie, let me go. It hurts." Max frowned pitifully. His originally snow-white little hand was now bright red. "You weird auntie. Let go of my brother right now." Leo's eyes instantly welled up with tears as he tugged at Wendy's skirt, trying to pull her away. "Hey, you brat. Do you know how expensive this skirt is? Can you, a fatherless wild child, even afford to pay for it?" Today, to meet Liam, she had specially changed into her newly purchased haute couture skirt, which had cost her quite a sum. Wendy was so focused on her dress that she instinctively raised her hand to pinch the child's arms. "Stop!" At that moment, a cold voice rang out. Wendy found it somewhat familiar. When she looked up and saw the man's face clearly, she froze instantly. "Liam!" The man gripped her wrist, his eyes filled with obvious disgust, then mercilessly shoved her away. "Daddy!" Leo and Max's eyes instantly reddened as they dashed to Liam's side, each clinging to one of his legs. Liam's eyes were stormy, his usually handsome face now chillingly intimidating. Yet his slender hands still held the children tightly. "It's all right now, Max. Leo, don't cry." He gently soothed the two children. Wendy could tell from his attitude towards these two children that things were not looking good. "Liam, when did you have children?" she asked, her face pale. Liam sneered. "Miss Wen, since when do you have the right to meddle in my affairs? What status do you hold?" With that, he took the two little ones by the hand and turned to go upstairs. "Assistant, from now on, Miss Wen is not welcome at Tianhui Group." "Yes," the assistant said, feeling pleased inside. Every time Wendy came, she acted as if she were the mistress of the house. Out of respect for old Mrs. Guan, he couldn't afford to offend her. "Liam, you can't treat me like this." Wendy's face flushed red, her fingertips digging deeply into her palms. But the man showed not a hint of pity, turning away mercilessly without looking back. The scene that unfolded in the first-floor lobby was witnessed by everyone, leaving them all shocked. Gossip was flying everywhere in the group chat. "Oh my God, I had no idea the CEO was secretly married, and his child is already this big. Those two little buns are so adorable. The CEO's wife must be really beautiful too." Wendy stamped her foot in embarrassment and anger, then left with her bag in hand. Even after stepping out of Tianhui Group's doors, she still couldn't calm her anger. "Hey, find out who those two kids that went to Tianhui Group today belong to. I need to know right now." When the kindergarten teacher called, I finally realized that my two kids had actually sneaked out. "Clara, don't panic yet. Doesn't Max have a smartwatch on? Try calling first," Chloe reassured me. I watched the surveillance video that was sent over, only to see the two children sneaking out during nap time. As for where they went afterward, no one knew. But when I called, there was still no answer on the other end. Just as I was about to call the police, an unfamiliar phone number called me. A man's steady and familiar voice came from the other end. "Okay, I'm going over right now." Chloe watched as I rushed out without even grabbing my coat. "Clara, where are you going? I'll drive you." 15 minutes later, a pink Maserati roared to a stop in front of Tianhui Group's main entrance. The receptionist saw a woman with an imposing aura hurriedly heading toward the VIP elevator. Her demeanor was cool and aloof, and her stunning beauty was in no way inferior to today's top celebrity heartthrobs. Wow, who is this? She's so beautiful, even prettier than that celebrity Lana Yoon. When I stepped out of the elevator, Liam's assistant was already waiting there. Miss Yun, there's no need to worry. The two young masters are currently in President Hayes's office. The assistant appeared more respectful than usual and took the opportunity to inform me about what had happened earlier at the door. Just as I assumed the children must be crying, the sound of their delighted laughter came from the office doorway. Daddy, do it again! When I opened the door, I saw the usually imposing man now playing gently with the children, his expression full of tenderness. Daddy, I want to fly too. Max also spread his arms, raising his head with eager anticipation. This was the first time I had seen such a childlike smile on the usually composed Max. Mommy! It was Leo who noticed me first. The chubby little boy's face immediately lit up with a smile, his plump cheeks like dough, and he bounced over like a little meatball, throwing himself into my arms. Mommy, you finally came to find me and Big Brother. I angrily pinched his ear, gritting my teeth. What do you mean by this? Did you sneak out just to play hide and seek with me? Back when I was raising the two children alone abroad, they were always very sensible and would never play such jokes. I looked at Max. Max, is that really the case? Max unusually remained silent, just lowering his head. I didn't press them to speak, planning to investigate what had happened at the kindergarten later. Don't worry, Liam then stepped forward, still holding Max's hand. These two children were sweating all over when they first arrived. I've already had someone help them change their clothes. I looked at him gratefully. Mr. Hayes, I really appreciate your help this time. After all, he was the president of a listed company and had specially spent an hour helping me take care of my children. For some reason, Liam felt uncomfortable hearing me address him that way, even though others called him the same. Compared to the children's safety, it's just a small matter, Liam said sincerely. After all, he genuinely liked these two children. Though he detested their father, it was truly irresponsible to abandon such adorable children. If he ever met that man, he would definitely teach him a harsh lesson. Mr. Hayes, you've helped me with such a big favor again. I really don't know how to thank you. If there's anything I can do for you in the future, I'll be more than willing to help. Compared to the last time I invited him for a meal, I was genuinely grateful this time. Hearing these words, Liam suddenly had an inexplicable thought pop into his mind. He coughed lightly, somewhat embarrassed. Actually, there is one thing that only you can help me with. I was taken aback. What is it? Was there really something I could help Liam Hayes with? For the family banquet the day after tomorrow, I hope you can attend as my companion. His grandmother was seriously ill, and he truly didn't want to upset her by making her worry about him. I was silent for a moment. Given Mr. Hayes' status, I imagine many women would agree. Why must you ask me? It's not that I didn't want to help, but I was afraid of any rumors spreading between us. After all, we had already been photographed by paparazzi when we took the children to the amusement park. Liam always gets what he wants, so he directly addressed my concerns. You shouldn't worry. The privacy of the Hayes family's old residence is excellent. What happened with the photos before won't happen again. As for why I'm asking Miss Yun for help, Liam smiled, lounging lazily on the sofa, exuding the aura of someone in a position of power. You know, I'm very busy and don't want to waste time on such matters. Rather than going out to find a stranger, I'd prefer to ask Miss Yun for this favor. With things having reached this point, it would be inappropriate to refuse any further. I gritted my teeth and said, Fine, see you the day after tomorrow. I'll have someone deliver the gown to you tomorrow, and I'll come pick you up when the time comes. His objective had been achieved, and a faint smile appeared on Liam's face that even he himself didn't notice. Leo, Max, come home now, I said, crouching down. Leo and Max exchanged glances, then surprisingly shook their heads in unison. Mommy, can we play with Uncle a little longer? In front of me, they switched back to calling him Uncle. No, Uncle needs to work now. He's already played with you for so long. I once again became the strict mother. Leo's little face fell, his chubby cheeks instantly scrunching up as a few teardrops welled in his round eyes. Mommy, I want to play with Uncle a little longer. Max, standing nearby, held his younger brother's hand and walked up to Liam. Raising his head, he said, Thank you, Uncle. My brother and I need to go home with Mommy now. Can we come play again next time? Liam patted Max's head and pinched Leo's chubby cheeks, smiling as he said, Sure, isn't your birthday coming up in a week? When you celebrate your birthday, Uncle will take you out to play. Yay! Daddy touched him. Okay? Leo immediately stopped crying and smiled, rubbing his eyes. With his usual cool expression, Max quietly wiped his younger brother's tears. After picking up the two children, I took them back to kindergarten. Goodbye, Mommy. Max and Leo waved their hands, the sunlight shining on their faces, filling my heart with warmth. Goodbye, little ones. I crouched down and kissed their foreheads. After returning home, I finally asked the teacher about the situation. It turned out that some children in the kindergarten deliberately called Leo and Max fatherless wild kids. Later, the two children got angry and said they wanted to find their father, which led to this incident. I felt a pang of discomfort upon hearing the news. Clara, what's wrong? Still not happy? Chloe had just returned from somewhere. I shook my head. Some things couldn't be resolved just by talking about them. Nothing. How's your preparation for tomorrow's interview going? Chloe pulled out a thick stack of scripts. See, I've prepared thoroughly for the role of the female lead's rival. Go for it. I believe in you. To avoid alerting the enemy and to make Susan and her daughter let their guard down, I currently present myself as Chloe's agent to the public. However, MC Entertainment was actually founded by me, and the real decision-making power lies in my hands. The publicly known CEO is a professional manager I hired. All right, there are no meetings at the company tomorrow. I'll go with you to the interview. I organized the documents and set up public relations teams and social media accounts for several promising artists in the company. By the way, why haven't you been going back to the Guan family lately? You've been staying at my place all the time. I chatted with Chloe while washing my face. Chloe lay on the couch, binge-watching a drama, completely captivated. I'm not going back. That Wendy Wen has been tattling on me to old Mrs. Guan every day lately, and I don't even know what she's up to. Then you're just going to let her get away with it? I knew Chloe wasn't the type to take things lying down. How could I? Chloe gritted her teeth. I'm just waiting for the right opportunity. You know how my father is completely smitten with Aunt Wen now. There's no place left for me or my brother. And old Lady Guan isn't even my real grandmother, so naturally she favors her own niece's daughter. Aunt Wen was old Lady Guan's biological niece, and since old Lady Guan was the second wife Chloe's father married, she naturally used her seniority to make life difficult for Chloe. If it weren't for the fact that my brother is currently holding up the entire Guan Corporation, my life would probably be even harder. I knew that wealthy families had their own troubles. Forget it. Let's not talk about this anymore. Good night, Chloe. Before bed every night, I always said goodnight to my two little ones. Early the next morning, Chloe and I arrived at the interview location bright and early. This time, Director Zhang is personally involved. He places great importance on this script, so you need to perform well, I reminded her. At that very moment, a sudden commotion erupted at the entrance. A nanny van pulled up, and soon, a woman in a cheongsam stepped out gracefully, her jet black hair cascading over her shoulders. Behind her trailed three assistants, their demeanor aggressive and imposing. Well, what a coincidence. So, you're here too, sister. Lana Yun crossed her arms, looking at me with disdain. I thought my sister had found a decent job, but it turns out she's just a little sidekick. She saw me as Chloe's little assistant. Chloe couldn't hold back her anger and immediately stood up. You... I pulled her back and shook my head. I couldn't be bothered to argue about this, especially since the interview was about to start. You'd better wipe that smeared lipstick off your mouth first, Chloe mocked. With that attitude, you call this an interview? Lana's face stiffened. She had just been on a date with Julian, and his passionate kisses had left her momentarily overwhelmed. Next candidates, Chloe Guan, Lana Yun. It was their turn. Chloe entered with her notebook. Lana, who had been arguing just moments ago, shot me a resentful glare before swaying her hips and walking in. I sat on the sofa waiting, taking the opportunity to pull out my phone and deal with the incident at the kindergarten. The parents of those children had been identified. They were from the Yang and Li families of the imperial capital. I dialed a number, but the other end either hung up or didn't answer. Finally, the last call was picked up. Hey, I've had enough, okay? My child just said a few words casually. Do you really have to be so nitpicky? Besides, what did my child say that was wrong? Your child is just a fatherless bastard. If you call again, I'll sue you for harassment. Before I could speak, the other end hung up with a click. My eyes gleamed with coldness. People could criticize me, but no one was allowed to insult my children. They were my bottom line. I dialed another number. President Yun, may I ask what you need? If people knew that the person currently speaking to me was the publicly announced CEO of MC Entertainment, their jaws would drop. I recall that Madame Zhang has a niece recently working at the company, I said. Yes, yes, yes. The CEO on the other end wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. Who knows how Madame Zhang managed to offend President Yun? After all, President Yun is far from being a kind-hearted person. A cold smile curled at the corner of my lips. Cut her resources and allocate them to others. But Miss Zhang is about to join the production team soon. The CEO hesitated. Are we out of people in this company? MC Entertainment doesn't lack just one Miss Zhang, I said mercilessly. The CEO let out a sigh and said cautiously, President Yun, I'll notify Miss Zhang about the replacement then. Yeah. I currently appear to be Chloe's agent, but I am actually the largest shareholder of MC. While the person in apparent authority is the CEO, I am the one who makes the final decisions. Half an hour later, Chloe emerged with a delighted expression, in stark contrast to Lana, who looked as if she'd eaten something disgusting. Clara, I got the role! Chloe hugged me. For this role, and to prove herself in front of Lana, she had put in a lot of effort, studying the character and even seeking guidance from an old professor at the film academy. But who knows how you got this role? Maybe you sold yourself. How disgusting can you be? Lana crossed her arms, her face twisted with jealousy and resentment. Say that again! Chloe, with her fiery temper, immediately rushed forward and slapped Lana across the face. Ah! Lana screamed in shock, never expecting Chloe to dare hit her. The conflict instantly drew the attention of everyone around them. Lana's eyes darted, and suddenly tears streamed down her face as she looked at Chloe with an expression of disbelief. Chloe, I know you hate me because we often compete for the same roles, but even so, I've always considered you my best friend. Why would you hit me? Her eyes were slightly red, and crystal-clear tears streamed down her snow-white cheeks, making her look pitiful like a delicate flower drenched in a storm. Seeing this, the crowd immediately began to accuse Chloe. Exactly. I've often seen Chloe Guan snatch roles from Lana Yun. What a scheming woman. Since you're incompetent and know you're going to lose to Lana this time, you resort to climbing into the director's bed. How shameless. Chloe turned pale with anger. Lana looked at us triumphantly with no trace of her previous grievance. Miss Yun, please look up at the camera. Everything that just happened has been completely recorded. I unhurriedly took out a voice recorder from my bag. And I believe everything Miss Yun just said has been recorded. Lana's expression changed, and she gritted her teeth, trying to stop me. But I wasn't having any of it, mercilessly pressing the play button. Instantly, every word Lana had just spoken echoed clearly throughout the hall. The crowd immediately exchanged glances, their looks toward Lana now filled with disdain. Everyone in the entertainment industry has their share of cunning, but Lana Yun constantly portrays herself online as an innocent little white flower. It's truly nauseating. Was Lana just pretending all along? How scheming. Who says it's not true? I bet she was the one who spread those rumors about Chloe before. The surrounding chatter instantly drained the color from Lana's face. Clara Yun, you bitch! How dare you record me? Lana clenched her fists so tightly her nails dug into her palms. I calmly put away the recorder. I think you'd better focus on how to explain this to your fans. And a friendly reminder, you might want to hire a better PR team. You're going to post this recording online? Lana widened her eyes and couldn't help but scream. I ignored her, putting on my sunglasses. Chloe, let's go! The crowd voluntarily made way for us. Clara, stop right there! Lana shouted, her face pale. There was only one thought in her mind. It's over. In the interview room, a middle-aged man wearing glasses frowned and said, "Blacklist that actress, surname Yoon. I don't want to see her in any of my productions in the future." "Yes, Director Jong." Another director shook his head helplessly. "Director Jong, it seems some actors aren't what they're said to be online. Good thing you didn't choose Lana Yun during the casting just now." He sighed. "Lana is out of the question. I just don't know about Chloe. After all, she's still a newcomer." Director Jong recalled Chloe's performance earlier. "I actually think Chloe has more potential than Lana. She won't be bad at all. We'll just need to guide her more when the time comes. All veteran actors went through this process." In the car, Chloe was laughing uncontrollably. "Clara, did you see that? Lana's frustrated expression was so hilarious." "With people like her, you can't afford to be soft," I said. "By the way, are you going to post this recording online?" "Of course I am. I want her fans to see what kind of person Lana Yun really is. That way, she can't keep pretending online every day." Chloe gritted her teeth in anger as she recalled the past grievances she had suffered under Lana. "Okay, I'll have the PR team prepare early," I said, contacting the team from the car. "You're currently taking a straightforward approach. After Lana responds online, you can post on social media or take this opportunity to go live. For now, we'll continue with our original strategy." Chloe nodded and suddenly pulled a large box from the trunk before getting out of the car, handing it to me. "Clara, Leo, and Max's birthdays are coming up. This is my gift for them. Remember to deliver it for me." Before I could refuse, Chloe had already dashed away. I looked at the bag of gifts in my hands and sighed quietly. Chloe spoiled the children too much, having bought almost every toy available on the market, just short of moving the entire toy store home. Back at home, the two little ones were overjoyed to receive the gifts. "Mommy, wait a moment. I want to call and thank Auntie Chloe." Leo's small face was flushed red as he hugged his newly bought Ultraman, unable to put it down. "All right, Mommy will give you the phone in a moment." "Your Ultraman Tiga is so handsome," I said, patting the little chubby boy's head. Leo raised his small face, his features scrunching up as he pouted. "Mommy, this is Ultraman Zero." "All right, I can't tell them apart. In my eyes, all Ultramen look the same." Meanwhile, Max was holding a set of chemistry experiment equipment, fiddling with it with his head lowered, his usually calm face also showing excitement. "Mommy, this experiment set is so cool," he said, his eyes sparkling. I hugged both children and gave them a kiss. "Now that you're in kindergarten, are there still kids who bully you?" The two little ones looked at each other and shook their heads in unison. "Mommy, don't worry, we're fine." Anyway, they had already given that classmate a little lesson in their own way. Besides, they would soon have a daddy. Next time they see Uncle Liam, they'll try to make him their daddy. Seeing that I couldn't get any answers, I decided to wait a while longer. If things stayed this way, I would definitely not let the Jong family off easy. At this thought, a cold glint flashed in my eyes. Before going to bed, I checked my phone as usual to handle work matters when suddenly a friend request popped up on my messaging app. I opened it and saw it was from Liam Hayes. Upon closer inspection of his profile picture, it turned out to be a photo of Leo and Max from the amusement park that day. I had no idea what this man was up to, but I gritted my teeth and accepted the request.